Giselle Ugarte. She is a speaker, motivational coach, mindset, marketing.
You think that confidence comes from achievement. You think that confidence comes from a number on the scale or a number at the gym. Like for so much of my life, the affiliation that I had to brand or network or dollar amount, that was completely attached to my worthiness to get out of bed in the morning. I use content as a way to open doors. I use it to tell stories. I use it to create relationships. If I posted significantly more or if it went beyond my control, I don't know that I would still be here.
You have these people who are really good at content. They've never figured out how to build a business, like you said. Then you have all these entrepreneurs who are really good. They have no idea how to be on camera. Whoever merges, they're the studs.
Untouchable.
They're going to kill it. I want to be a strong Christian, a strong family man, and a strong business owner. Who else does that? You know, he's divorced. They have no kids. They have no faith. And you start to like look at it and you're like, all right, well, should I really be taking life advice from them? I can take business advice from them, but do I want to take life advice from them? It's like I'm trying to cross over now into a different world where... What's up, Wealth Builders? Today, I've got Giselle Ugarte with... Did I say it right?
Yeah.
I did. All right, perfect.
You got it.
I got it. And she is a speaker, motivational coach, mindset, marketing, all the things I love. And honestly, the reason I want to have her on the show is because I actually saw you, man, like 3 years ago when TikTok first started. And I was like, this girl gets it. Like, this platform is going to be big and you're making great content talking about how to do it. And I was watching, I was like, at the time, I didn't know what I was doing. No one did. Yeah. And I was like, but I respect people who see what I see. Yep. And, you know, the last 3 years, just, things went pretty good for me and things have gone good for you. And now it's just kind of cool to finally meet you in person.
It's wild, right? Like you have legs.
I do. I'm not just an upper body who talks to a camera.
And also how cool it is where it feels like I already know you and that you do match offline, online you.
Well, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
People do say that. They're like, dude, you're like a real person. And I'm like, yeah. I don't know if you thought I was AI or NFT or what? It's
weird when you're used to looking at someone just two-dimensionally.
Yeah,
or on a screen.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then to realize like, oh, wow. Like I actually think that I would fangirl more over someone that I have been following for a long time versus like a celebrity, like a traditional celebrity.
Oh, I've been saying that forever.
Yeah.
Like the new celebrities are the influencers.
And I'm in town for a conference and there have been so many times where I go up to someone, I'm so excited and it's like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen you in so long. And then I realize, oh my God, I've never seen you ever. In fact, I'm not even sure if you follow me back.
Yeah.
And we have never met before. Hi, I'm Giselle. Nice to meet you. But I was just so sure.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, oh wait, I know your husband. I know your dog. I know your kid.
I know everything about you. I see you every day, but we've actually never met.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird because that would have made you a weirdo a long time ago, but now it's very normal. But so people watching this are like, well, that's cool. What do you do? How do you know what you know?
I started to create online video content and study it almost 15 years ago.
Okay.
On this tiny little platform called YouTube.
Yep.
And I wanted to be an entertainment news host. I was living in LA. I wanted to have a TV career and nobody wanted to hire me. Like no one cared that I went to a great school. Nobody cared that I knew how to produce or write or that I had a brain.
Yep.
And someone gave me the advice that I should learn how to do everything, learn how to film my own videos, learn how to produce content, edit content, learn about audio, lighting. And so I started to upload these videos on this tiny little platform where I thought no one would see them.
Yeah.
Like that was just me getting comfortable looking at myself and hearing my voice because I did hate what I looked like, especially in LA where they can tear you apart.
Yeah.
Not just the comments, but like people in real life in audition rooms saying like, you're a little too big for us.
Yeah.
Or your hair's too big or your skin's too dark.
Yeah.
Or why don't you have an accent? Because, you know, I'm Latina. Like, why don't you have an accent? Like, can you be a little dumber for us? Like, I would get that. Like, and they could totally say that. And so I would put videos up on this platform just for practice. But then I realized, wait, I can copy and paste a link to a video where at the time, like this is 10, 15 years ago, I would have to put portfolios together, like real portfolios in manila envelopes with a DVD and a reel and my resume and clips. And it would cost like $25 per envelope to send to someone where it would maybe end up in the trash.
Right.
All of a sudden I could copy and paste something and email it to somebody for $0 and I could send them very specific videos, contents, pitches according to what I was doing.
Yep.
But also I found this extraordinarily average network of 16, 17-year-old kids who were making videos in their college dorms or in their bedrooms, and the quality was horrible, and they were rambling, and they had no on-camera experience, but they had hundreds of thousands, if not millions of subscribers, and no one was talking about this.
Yeah.
And it was a world that I thought was so beneath me. But yet there was something that was happening, and I felt like I needed to pay attention, and I was pulled to pay attention. And I was like, it had to have been, the title of their video, or what time of day, or what day of the week. Like, there has to be a secret that they know, because it couldn't be just them.
Yeah.
And I realized, like, wait, it's community, it's connection, it's consistency, it's the collaborations that they were doing.
On September 25th to the 27th, I'm holding my biggest virtual event ever called the Profit Partner Challenge, and it's going to be epic. I'm gonna be going over the #1 way to get started in real estate, and I'll tell you, it's not wholesaling, it's not flipping, it's not buy and hold, it's not Airbnb, it's not multifamily, it's something completely different. And the great thing about getting started this way in real estate is you can do it from your house with just a computer and Wi-Fi. And you might be wondering, what exactly am I talking about? Well, what if I told you that you could use my team to close all of your deals? We negotiate with the seller, we figure out what we're gonna do with it, and then we make a profit together. Well, I've built out the team to do exactly that. I just need your help with identifying these sellers all across the country that we could be doing deals with. And so if that sounds like something you want to be a part of with partnering with my team and learning how you can get into the real estate business in the safest and easiest way possible, then you'll want to make sure you attend this free 3-day challenge. So if you're interested in joining, go to wealthyworkshop.com. You can sign up today. It's completely free, and I'll see you there. So once again, go to wealthyworkshop.com or click the link below.
So fast forward, like, part of why I was able to understand TikTok is like, oh, this is history repeating itself.
Yeah, you've been studying it for a long time. You start to see like deja vu. I was literally just talking to our team at Pineda Media about this. So we were talking about this new product we have. Well, it's not even a new product, but it's like a refined product called Brand Blueprint, where we basically take an entrepreneur, we start asking them a series of questions to help them understand, like, hey, who are you? What do you want your brand to represent? Like, how are we going to create content around this? Who are we trying to attract? All these things, right? And we were just talking about it, and Kate, who works there, she was like, it's crazy because, like, I did the story, and that's like what everyone wants. And I go, yeah, because it's like, I've gone through this so many times, just hearing what people want, that to me, it's like deja vu. And I started walking them through how this was going to play out. I'm like, here's how it's going to play out. We're going to do this, this, and this, and then this is going to go wrong, and then we're going to adjust here. And I'm like, oh, this is what's going to happen, guys. And in about 6 months from now, we're going to have all the data, and we're going to have made all the adjustments, and it's going to be extremely good. But literally, deja vu was how I was comparing it, because I was like, we're doing both of these things, and I've already done this like 3 times in other industries and things.
I've seen it before.
Yeah.
And so much of it is growth. It's doing something that makes you uncomfortable. And unfortunately, what happens, like, as we get so confident in our achievements, or maybe we end up growing in positions as leaders or as business owners, and we're afraid to mess up and in front of people, we're afraid to start from zero. That was one of the things that I loved so much about TikTok, was that everyone had to start from zero and work their way up.
Yep.
But that's the common thread that I see, whether it's someone who they are a student, or they're at the bottom and they're just getting started, or I now have billionaire clients, and everybody struggles with, this is something I've never done before. I'm uncomfortable. They're maybe dealing with imposter syndrome. Who cares about me? What's my story? I don't like what I look like. I don't like what I sound like. But the reality is, it's like, well, you're growing. Like, if you're doing something that you've never done before, you're going to experience all of those feelings of self-doubt and discomfort and, who am I to do this? Yeah. But that's a good sign. Like, that's actually, like, lean into that. Great. Congratulations. You're doing something. Yep. And actually, I would flip it, where it's how cool that the people around you get to watch you kind of be the baby deer, where you're like wobbling, trying to get up, and they can see, oh, wow, that's a human. Yeah. And they can relate to some of that imperfection. And like, yeah, maybe you are making a cringy video or some cringy content, or you're trying to figure out who you are, but like, lean into that, so that way 6 months from now, you can perfect that process in the same way that you've done it with any other piece of your life where you're doing something you've never done before.
Yep. That's exactly what I tell people who are about to create content. I'm like, hey, that cringy video you're scared of making? You're going to make a lot of them. Hey, and even when people get into real estate, I'm like, hey, like that seller who like you're going to be afraid to talk to who's going to tell you to F off. Yeah, they're going to do that.
Yeah.
That contractor who you're scared of is going to like maybe screw you over. Yep, it's going to happen. And so once you start just like accepting that, yes, these bad things are going to happen, you realize like, oh, actually, this is just like part of the process. Like it's literally part of the price you pay in order to get the goal that you want. There's no like gold road paved with butterflies and daisies and like, that's it. You just never have any kind of pushback. It's crazy.
It is, but if you're not at least a little bit embarrassed of who you used to be or the content you used to create, like I even look at videos 6 months from now. I still sometimes will look at my folder and be like, oh God, like, did I really say that? Did I really, did I wear that? Did I do that?
Think back to early TikTok when we were first starting. When I got on there, I was like, everyone dances. I guess I'll just dance. And
did you dance?
Yeah, I did a couple dance videos with my wife. So like I did some dance videos and then I look back at all the stupid videos I did like with the pointing and stuff.
Oh God.
And I'm like, gosh, that was so bad. And they're still up there. So if you guys go to like the end, you'll see it. But once again, it was part of the process. And actually too, that's kind of like what had to be done to figure out what not to do.
Well, and I think people will look at someone like you and be like, well, but Ryan, you have the cool hair and the family and the support and like you have good skin and cool style, whatever. It doesn't matter. Like you can't get lost in that trap of comparison where it's like, you might have hundreds of videos. You might have a really big team, but you know what we don't have? We don't have you, like the not Ryan, but like whoever is listening to this going like, oh, but I don't want to, like, we need your unique perspective and your experiences and in a way that can't be replaced by a ChatGPT or an AI or an avatar.
What I always told people too is that to your point, it does not matter how you look, right? Like at the end of the day, I know a lot of below average to average people, good looks wise, that are crushing it way bigger than me or you or anyone else. Like they kill it, right? They don't let their looks stop them. They don't care, right? They could have a lisp. They could talk weird, whatever. They figure out a way to make it work, and then also on the flip side, I have a lot of business guys who, they're old school, right? And then they're like, dude, I understand I got to make content. This is weird for me, but I'm just going to do it. And they just do it. And so it's like, man, you can always make an excuse, right? And your excuse that like I've met people that I'm like, you were made for content. You've got the look, you speak so good, you're motivational, you're inspirational, make content. And then they have the same problem you said. They're like, I don't want to get judged. I don't want people to talk negatively. And I'm just like,
I think it's important to dive in there for a second though, because I have to put myself back into that place. Like even 10, 15 years ago, I was so unnatural. Like today I had a meeting with Guy Gal, who's the CEO of Side. And what a lot of people don't know is that we actually met 12 years ago. Mm-hmm. And he was at a different tech startup and they were looking for spokespeople and faces for their company. And I was someone who was in the final rounds of that. Like we met back in LA. Neither one of us were at all affiliated with real estate.
Yep.
And they loved who I was offline. But when you would put a camera on me, something weird would happen.
Right.
I was so caught up in the word. I was so caught up in my appearance. Like I wanted to get every single thing perfect and they wanted so badly to make it work and I could not get out of my head.
Yeah.
And when you perhaps have been in a situation where so much is reliant upon appearance or so much is reliant upon being perfect, it's hard to get out of that place. And so if you're nervous about like, oh, I don't want to be judged, what are people thinking about it? Like, think about like where are those opinions, those limiting beliefs coming from? Like sometimes we do have to go a little deeper, like not to get a little woo-woo, but I'm a woo-woo type of a person. Mm-hmm. Like really think about who is it that you are so concerned about on the other side of that camera?
Yeah.
Because, for me, it might have been an ex-boyfriend or it might have been a former boss, or it might have been that person who gave me the chip on my shoulder saying that I was never going to be good enough. I always knew going home that I would get someone's unsolicited opinions at the holidays from a relative, maybe even someone who really loved me.
Yeah.
I would actually say I'd probably gotten the most unsolicited feedback and pushback from the people who love me the most, who are projecting their fears onto me. Like, think about that for a second.
Preach.
Like my competitive advantage is I had 2 parents who loved me.
Yep.
And also like 2 parents who can worry about everything that they can.
Yeah.
And so like hearing them put the pressures, oh, but what about this? What about, are you sure you want to say that? Yes.
Yeah.
I'm sure, because there was a tiny little fire in my belly, a calling of, I know I'm doing something right, even though everybody else is trying to give me the feedback. And you have to learn how to differentiate, okay, which ones are the voices that matter, that are aligning and guiding me in the right way, versus the ones that you need to tune out.
Yeah.
May never support you, may be actually committed to misunderstanding you.
Entrepreneurs, if you want to grow your business, there is no better investment than your own personal brand. The smartest thing I ever did was start creating content and investing into my brand. Ever since then, we've been able to triple our business. I've been able to raise more money than ever, to continue buying more real estate. And it's all because I create content just like this. Now, a lot of people have asked me, Ryan, how am I supposed to do it? I don't know where to start. I don't know who's going to edit it. I don't know even what kind of setup or camera or anything to do. Well, here's the thing. We can help you with all of that at Pineda Media. We have a podcast checklist that you can actually get for free at pinedamedia.com that's going to go over everything you need on starting a podcast. But to make matters even better, we'll actually edit your podcast for you. We'll repurpose it into short form clips like you see on my Instagram and my TikTok, so that people will start seeing those clips and watching your podcast, and in turn, being customers or investors in your business. So if you want the one-stop solution where you can get everything done for you, plus get the education you need to grow your personal brand, then you need to go to pinedamedia.com and book a free call with our team. You can also go get that free podcast checklist and that training program absolutely free by just going there. So go check it out. My parents were the same way. I mean, very loving parents, still together today, gave me all the tools to succeed. They lost it all in the crash, and it kind of scarred my mom, who's always been a worrywart. Even to this day, she kind of like, it's a running joke in the family that every time she comes over, she's going to tell me about a new way I could die. Like, just not, no, I'm serious. This is a true thing of like, just something she saw in the news. She'll be like, Ryan, don't go to Mexico. You got to stop. Like, they just, like, you could
Parents
get
in
kidnapped.
Mexico, man.
And I'm like, I love Mexico. I go there like 4 times a year. And it'll be something like that. Or we'll fly a private plane. She's like, I saw something. So she's a news person.
Have you seen La Bamba?
No, I haven't seen it.
Other people will know the reference.
Okay. But
But
that's the whole thing. She does it all the time. And then anyways, I'm like, whatever, Mom. But when I wanted to start flipping houses, I was like, Mom, I'm going to flip houses and max out my credit card. She's like, no, don't do it. Blah, blah, blah. She's like, get a safe government job. I'm like, I'm never doing that. And, even when I started making content, she was like, you can't be telling people how much money you make and like showing your house and all these details of your life. And I was like, Mom, once again, I don't know, this is maybe the 1000th time we've had this conversation about something. I love you, but I'm just not going to listen. But to that point, right? The people who love you the most, who are really doing it out of what they think is good for you, can give you very terrible advice. Mm-hmm. And even to this day, like, my parents, we've like fully retired them and given them everything, cars, houses, like everything. And she'll still give me like financial advice. And
of course.
I'm just like, Mom, I'm not going to turn the light off because we're trying to save $1. and like, I don't care, Mom. Like, you got to turn the pool. I'm like, Mom, I'm just going to heat it all the time. I don't care. And so you if you want to think bigger, you got to get around people that actually have achieved what you want to achieve. And if your parents haven't achieved what you want to achieve, then their advice is kind of meaningless in that field of whatever it is.
Yeah. And understanding, sometimes you have to figure out like, what is that? Like, I remember now, like it feels so long ago because I was a baby back then, but I would have to like really figure out what are some of the boundaries that I need to set around conversations.
Yeah.
Like, and it wasn't even just content. Like I have certain things that I've just decided, you know what, maybe I'll let them ramble, or maybe I'll change the subject or end a conversation where I'm like, that's just something that we're not going to talk about.
Yep.
Or like, thank you so much. And I'll be able to just put that in my pocket versus taking it personally. And that's also part of even building confidence.
Yep.
Because, I was in YouTube when it was like prime YouTube era. And at the time, and one of the ways that I got my foot in the door was I started to create content for brands.
When was prime YouTube?
I would say like between 2008, 9, 2012.
Why was that prime YouTube versus like today where YouTube's so massive?
Think about early TikTok. The pool was a little smaller.
Yeah.
And the suggestions page, you would see familiar faces. It was
you're
easy
saying
to
prime
create
in terms of like, like that was the prime time to get in.
In terms of, and don't get me wrong, you can still start. I mean, hello, you are a prime example of that.
Yeah.
But in terms of the communities that were being created, in terms of the ways that people were commenting, in terms of the filters that did not exist.
Right.
Whether it was filters on the lens or filters in the comments. And so I became one of the first real life faces for CoverGirl Cosmetics. And that led to working with a lot of different brands and helping them to launch, like going from TV to streaming. And I would have people who were constantly critiquing my appearance.
I was thinking the other way. I was like, how confident did that make you feel that like, yo, I got a makeup deal. Like I've made it. And then you read the comments and you're like, wow. Okay.
It was both. Eventually, it toughened my skin.
Right.
But at first, it was something that it broke me.
Right.
It made me feel so unsafe.
Right.
People knew where I lived. People threatened my life. They would tell me to fix my nose or do this. And actually, I ended up getting my nose done because I had broken my nose a couple of times in college and it was crooked and it'll never be straight. And I'm okay with that now.
How did you break your nose a couple of times? Like, were you fighting?
The worst string of luck, and a great question. One time I left my purse in a cab before Uber and I ran full speed into a glass door trying to get,
okay.
Yes, there was alcohol involved. I'll just go ahead and admit it right now.
All right.
The other time I was actually here in Las Vegas and it was after a long, beach night, just, I say club because like it's a club, but like if you, it was one of those. And one of my girlfriends wore these over the knee thigh high boots that did not have zippers. And it took two of us to get the boot off of her. And all of a sudden the boot went moving, elbow went straight to my face. And I woke up with a black eye.
Jeez.
So
you were just meant to get a nose job. That's all it was.
I guess so. And like it'll never be perfect. And I have a dimple. And now like I'm okay with it. I don't care.
Yeah.
But people will comment about my hair, my round face, like the way that I talked, the way every little thing. A confident person. Like now I look at comments and someone might say like, back then, oh my God, her butt is so big, and I would have been like, cool. Oh my God, I'm so fat. Yeah. And now someone says like, oh my God, her butt is so big. I'm like, thank you. Yeah. I've been working on it. and like, that's like,
I was ahead of my time.
Apparently, thank you, the Kardashians.
Yep.
And so like every little thing would break me. On top of that, I had like a series of relationships that really truly broke me.
Right.
And so like that's something that you have to physically and actively train your brain to combat. And not everybody wants to talk about it. And part of it is mental health. Part of it is, developing thick skin. Part of it is your brain developing as a young adult.
Yeah.
But you have to determine, okay, what is true? What is my voice? What is somebody else's? If it's somebody else's, what matters versus like, when do we need to just stop giving a shit and just allowing for us to figure out who we are?
Yeah.
And I think something that we're seeing a lot of is like, you're unique in that you started to create content after you already created your career.
Yeah.
You had what seems to me, and I could be wrong, a sense of self.
Yeah.
You had a family, you had identity, you had wealth.
Yep.
A lot of people are getting into content first.
Yep.
And allowing for that to create their identities.
Yeah.
And then they don't know. They're just chasing after views. They're chasing after likes. They're chasing after dollars. They're chasing after brand deals. And they're just being the slave to their audience and whoever they want to be.
Yeah.
And so when I was in my 20s, part of it was that we're like, cool that I'm getting these deals, but also like, I was reliant upon these deals.
Yeah.
Like I was living check to check to check. Mm-hmm. And so I was addicted to working. And I did get my big break in entertainment news when I was like 23, 24. I was working with these huge brands. And still I was check because I didn't know when it was going to end. I didn't know how to manage my money. I was probably broker when I first made six figures than when I was making almost no money and like saving half of every single paycheck.
Right.
And so So I just encourage you, like, if you are feeling bad about yourself and your appearance, like, try finding confidence in other ways.
Yeah.
And recognize that confidence is not the absence of insecurity. That's arrogance.
Yeah.
Like, confidence is the embracement of it.
Yeah.
And sharing it. And when you can start to own your insecurities, then that's when it's harder for people to use those against you, or you can fall in love with them, and that can be your superpower.
Yeah. I have so many things I want to talk about for what you just said. You brought up a lot of good points, and I have different random points with it. One was with confidence, because it's such a big thing with social media and business and life in general, right?
Everything.
It brought me a story of one of my YouTube friends. I won't name his name, but he's a single guy who's a big YouTuber, and he doesn't have a lot of confidence because he never had really a lot of success in things he was doing. And then, he started to have a lot of success in YouTube, and like, I remember him telling me, he's like, dude, my YouTube channel's blowing up, but my DMs are silent, and I was like, okay. And he goes,
he wants DM slides? Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what he's looking for.
Okay.
And he was like, dude, once I reach a certain amount of subscribers and, I make a certain amount of money, then like they're going to be coming in. And I go, bro, hold on.
It's not how you want.
No, I go, first off, hold on. He's like, I just really struggle talking to women, and this and this and this. But once I have this stuff, then it's going to be easier. And I go, no. Let's take a step back. Okay. Confidence has nothing to do with your YouTube subscribers. Okay. Number one. All right. I was broke and I was 1,000 times more confident than you. I hadn't achieved anything, but whether it was girls or a career or like anything I've ever pursued in my life, I go into it with extreme confidence, even though I maybe have never even done it. It's just like, it's a mindset to be confident. And yeah, you got to the more wins you stack, the more confident you get. And, you have this line of like, not to cross between confidence and arrogance, but you got to have like extreme confidence to succeed in things, especially if you've never done it. So anyways, I was like, bro, YouTube subscribers ain't going to change anything for you, dude. Money will not change anything for you. You will still not talk to girls. Unless you just change your mindset. They don't care. Like, you can talk to them right now. It does not matter where your subscriber. And by the way, you have like hundreds of thousands of subscribers. Like, you're already good.
Right.
Okay. So that was like one thing that you brought to mind saying that. The second thing you brought to mind was, why don't people make these videos, right? They're scared of judgment. They're scared of, what their mom says or whatever. Right. And the only reason I'm bringing this up is because the meeting I just came down from, Kate at Pineda Media, was asking that. She goes, Ryan, how did you get over the fear of making videos? Like, was there a time in your life you struggled with it? Like, how did you get over that fear? And I go, honestly, my initial gut reaction was, I never really cared, to be honest. Like, I just didn't care. I was so secure in who I was already. Like you said, by the time I started making content, I was established. I was like, I am who I am. Here's what I've accomplished. If you want to listen, cool. But I'm not trying to find myself on social media and adapt and pivot to whatever gets views. I was just like, this is what I do. And freaking, if people like it, great. But I started to think about it and I was like, no, I like everyone else have struggled with like expectations and, caring what people think. And I just happened to go through it at a different phase of my life. I went through it in pro sports. And so I thought back to my life and I was like, man, I played till I was 28 years old. I played 8 seasons professionally. I was an All-American in college and, the best player on our high school. Like, I was just like always like expected to be the leader and the best. And guess what? When I had terrible games, which is a lot in baseball, I played thousands of games probably. It's like, dude, I suck. My like identity is tied in this sport that I play every day. And if I have a bad game, my identity is trashed. If I have a good game, everything's good. But here's the thing in baseball is that everything is tracked publicly in front of live people who boo you, who tell you suck, who like are right there in front of your face. They're not like behind the camera, behind freaking comment warrior scrubs who mean nothing in their mama's basement. These are like people, drunk people, whatever, literally telling you suck.
Yeah.
And so like I think about it and I was like, well, I did that like my whole life. I guess when I started making videos, these basement people don't matter.
You make a really good point. And that was something that I went to USC for college.
Yeah. I went to Northridge, so right by you.
Yeah. So and during prime football era, I was a song girl, I was a cheerleader my freshman, sophomore year. And I'll never forget like the first few football games. It was, in the thick of Facebook when it was still college only.
Yep.
And there was like a game that went horribly wrong and everyone took to their Facebook status because at the time everyone was into Facebook. And all of a sudden a switch flipped for me because I've always been a big sports girl. I grew up in a house full of boys and Minnesota is just, God bless every Minnesota sports fan because you have to be loyal. And so everyone's like complaining, ranting, and all of a sudden I'm like, wait, these are our friends on the field. Like your friends can see your status. Like, and so like, we sometimes even dehumanize the people who are on the other side.
Yeah.
Like you depersonalize it and you do create this thought that it's armor, that you can say whatever you want.
Yeah.
And that's so
you think there's no you think you're typing just something and
and it does hurt. Like you have to develop skin for that. And you and I have had extraordinary circumstances where for me it was working in entertainment, for you it was working in baseball.
Entertainment.
Where we were also entertainment.
Yeah.
Like
it
sports.
It's
like,
entertainment.
All of it where like we had to physically see it and get it from people where for the average person that's not normal, that's not what they're used to. And I do think that there is an epidemic going around with confidence. And I don't think it's specific to men. I just think that it's been a lot more audible for women previously because, there's a bajillion-dollar beauty industry that is all about fixing every single thing that's wrong with you, and guys just kind of have to own it.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's really easy that like you think that confidence comes from achievement.
Yeah.
You think that confidence comes from a number on the scale or a number at the gym. You think that confidence comes from a dollar amount. You think that confidence comes from the validation of women or, from how many girls slide into your DMs or how many girls you take home. And all of a sudden something goes wrong in, your life and you take it out on everyone.
Yeah.
And I've seen so many dysfunctional relationships that are because your whole ego comes from something. And I've had that too. Like for so much of my life, the affiliation that I had to brand or network or dollar amount, that was completely attached to my worthiness to get out of bed in the morning.
Yeah.
And what I believe, my worthiness to get the job or be in a relationship or get in front of the camera or go show up to the thing. And we need to like allow for ourselves to really go into our experiences and go into our gifts and go into our callings and go into our places of service to recognize that if all of that went away, like you would still be okay.
Yeah.
And even, I know that you're a God person.
Yep.
And, a lot of your listeners and followers are.
Yeah.
I remember like a time as an adult where I really had this mega connection to God. And it was when I had nothing. I had just lost every job. I didn't have any idea where my next check was going to come from, but I just had this innate knowingness feeling of it's going to be okay. And I feel like the love that I'm missing, I am.
Yeah.
And that's like, you kind of have to strip it down. Again, getting a little woo-woo, but I know that your audience can go a little deep sometimes.
Yeah.
Where like you have to look in the mirror. And when you look in the mirror, you look at yourself, you look in your eyes, you have conversations with yourself to check in the same way that you would somebody who you love versus looking at your face or looking at your stomach, or looking at the scale or looking at, the bank account, and knowing that like you are meant for more.
Mm-hmm. I love it. Wealth Builders, if you are trying to grow your real estate investing business, then you need to join us at Wealthy Investor. If you have no idea what Wealthy Investor is, it is our coaching program and community. We have helped thousands of students worldwide grow their business. Now, it doesn't matter if you're just getting started and you're trying to get that first deal. We can help you do that. If you're trying to scale your business and go from a few deals a year to a few deals a month or even 7 figures a year, we can help you do that too. In fact, last year alone, we had over 30 students do over $1 million in revenue. And I'd love for you to be the next one. So it's pretty simple. If you're trying to grow your business and wholesale more homes or flip more homes or buy more rental properties, then you need to go to wealthyinvestor.com and book a free call with our team. It's super simple. We'll go on a strategy call with you and figure out how we can help you grow according to your needs. So all you got to do is go to wealthyinvestor.com, book the free call with the team, and we'll see you there. Speaking on faith and confidence, it's like there's so many Bible verses about having confidence in the Lord and not putting your trust in yourself, but in God. And for me, that's been the key to all of it, because I've had identity in baseball, and I've seen what happens when you lose your identity because you get released, you get retired, you have a bad game. Like when your identity is wrapped up in your career, it's doomed to fail, because your career is going to change.
Always.
It's always going to change.
The constant is change.
It's always changing. So that becomes an issue. And then the other thing too, with just reframing your mind, because for me, it's like, I've used this line of thinking on the show many times, but it's like, look, our time on earth is a blip. It's literally a blip in the span of eternity. And so it's like, man, I'm worried about what so-and-so said today. Like, it's irrelevant at the end of the day. Like, all that really matters is what happens next in eternity. And so once you start having that mindset, you're like, wow, two things are now very evident to me. One, what so-and-so said doesn't really matter. And what I think about this, like, it doesn't really matter. And two, I better know what happens next. And I better have confidence and faith that whatever I believe is the right choice, because just logically speaking, that's the truth. We all have one guarantee in life: we die. And so if we all know that that's the only guarantee, well, what happens next? So I think reframing your mind helps you to start like realizing, like, man, I think these things are way bigger than they actually are. They're not. This is like so stupid that I'm arguing about this, or thinking what this person thinks, or like that person said. Because even when I started to make content on social media, I started to realize people were like making reaction videos and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, look at this guy with his stupid hair, and like, he's wrong about this, and whatever. And I was like, man, I'm about to go freaking, I like a good debate, and I like to freaking go in on people and make them feel stupid for what they said, because if I said it, there's a good chance I can back it up like really quickly with whatever. Right. And, eventually I realized, I was like, that is just such a waste of time. Like, what am I, like, this is stupid. So I just was like, I'm not doing that anymore. But yeah, it's hard. And the other point you brought up was about these young people coming up in the content game. Because you got into content really early, but like, content to me anyways has not become like a career path until less than 5 years ago. I don't think that people were like, I want to be like Mr. Beast. I want to be like Ryan. I want to be like Jake Paul. Like, that was never a thing. And then now you see, oh, Mr. Beast's going to be a billionaire. Jake Paul's going to be a billionaire. Logan Paul's probably already a billionaire with Prime. Like, you're like, okay, content's a pretty good path. Oh, why are all these entrepreneurs making content? Like, they must know something that it's pretty important. So, we have massive events. We have an event called WealthCon. Everybody should go. October 3rd to the 6th, wealthcon.org. You guys check it out. But at WealthCon, I have a lot of young people who attend. And when I say young, I'm talking like early 20s. And a lot of them ask the question, they're like, hey, should I start creating content? And I'll be like, what do you do? And they're like, well, I don't really do anything, but I want to make like finance content. I go, okay, why would I listen to you? And they're like, because I'm going to make good content. I'm like, but you haven't done anything. Why would I listen to you? I'd rather listen to somebody who's done something and made money. And they're like, that's a good point. And I go, and so they'll be like, but what if like I interviewed people like you and these guys? I go, okay, I mean, like, assuming you can even interview all these people, which is really hard to do, right? But assuming you could, okay, cool. You're interviewing them, and let's say you become a great interviewer. Still, nobody's coming to you for advice on money. Like, they're coming to hear what your viewers say. So what you're telling me is not that you're a business person. You're telling me you want to be a content creator, because that's what you are. You're just a really good content creator. You're good at getting guests. You're good at being a host, your sets, your clip, like, you're a full-on content creator. I go, so let me ask you a question. Is that what you want to be? Because you're going to have to be great at one skill, like, at least first. So do you want that skill to be a content creator? And they're like, no, I want to do business. And I'm like, okay, well, you're going to have to go do business for the next 10 years and really grind it out. And like get experience and prove that you deserve to tell people about business?
So when I hear that, a couple different things. So first of all, you brought up some of the greats, Mr. Beast and Logan and Jake Paul. And I feel like it's also important to recognize that those are some of the few that survived those prime years that I was talking about earlier.
When you said that, I was actually thinking that. I was like, was that the prime years? Because there ain't many people from it.
Exactly. So let's think about that for a second. Because now, you know, we're old enough to where we've seen the pattern. We've seen how they've been forced to adapt.
Yep.
And here's something that I've learned and why I look at content a little differently. If you've never heard of me before, you might be like, why should I take her seriously? She doesn't have a bajillion followers. She doesn't go viral as much as Ryan does. That's never been my intention. I use content as a way to open doors. I use it to tell stories. I use it to create relationships. And I also want to be able to have a healthy relationship with it.
Yeah.
Because if I posted significantly more or if it went beyond my control, I don't know that I would still be here.
Yeah.
Because my mental health like needs to be able to have boundaries for me, and I'm moving at the pace that I want to, and I'm growing at the pace that I want to. And if I decide to accelerate, that's my choice and my prerogative, not because I got the pressure from somebody else.
Yep.
But I've seen and I've experienced what happens when you become a slave to your audience, when you become all about the niche, like getting so caught up in the niche, the views, the controversy, and they burn out.
Yeah.
So many of
Happens all
those
the time.
creators have burnt out, or they have ended up, you know, abusing substances, or have, you know, just really kind of become their own worst enemy because they weren't able to come out of it, or they've just decided, you know, like, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to go have a real life.
Yeah.
I want to go back to school. I want to develop a career. And so I believe it's really important to like figure out what your identity is, like first and foremost, and find community, find collaborations, and find ways where you don't just have one thing that you're reliant upon.
Yeah.
You're not just a content creator.
Yeah.
Like they've created businesses, like multiple, and they've invested their money very, very carefully, and they've learned from their mistakes. Like in some ways, it's a miracle that the Logans are still alive, not just not canceled.
Yeah. Well, so one thing I'll say is like, so when I came on the scene with content, and even in content, like I'm still like a nobody compared to those guys. But I knew from the beginning, I go, hey, I understand there's two worlds at play here. There's the content creator, and then there's the entrepreneur business owner guy, right? And you have these people who are really good at content. They've never figured out how to build a business, like you said. Then you have all these entrepreneurs who are really good. They have no idea how to be on camera.
Yep.
And I go, whoever merges, they're the studs. They're going to kill it. Right?
Untouchable.
And everyone knows who those people are, no matter what side they first came from, because they're the Cardones and the Hormozis and the Patrick Bet-Davids and Ed Milet's and everyone else who came from this side first, and then they started doing content. Then you see these guys like Mr. Beast, Logan Paul, Jake Paul, who came from content and started making businesses. It all leads to the same path that you have to be on if you're going to, you know, really be great. But, you know, I've told all my friends who solely rely on YouTube as income, every time I'm like, guys, this ain't it. Like
No.
you have to make a business. I'll partner with you. Like, I'll do it. Just you're going to have to just take my advice and like promote. And then they're like, oh, I don't want to be salesy. I don't want to be promoting. I'm like,
it's not about that.
We're never okay. Never mind. Just go get your ads. Like whatever.
And also we're seeing the models change of where that ad revenue comes from. So it's like, even if
way down,
you don't have to create a course, but you can invest that into a business, or buy a business, or go pursue a hobby that you're super obsessed with and excited about.
Quit taking brand deals and sell your own products.
Exactly. Like, and we've seen that model from the Kardashians, for example. But I mean, times a million.
The two billionaires.
Right. And so, you know, I think it's important to like look at what they've done. But then let's go back to those of you who are listening and you're saying, well, I want to be a content creator. I want to give finance advice. Well, what experience do you have? Well, I do think that one of the things that the greats did right was that they were documenting all along. And they were, you know, I'm sure there were moments where they were trying to be something that they were not as they were figuring out who they were, because Logan and Jake were legitimately children when they first started to create content. But it's just owning your experience and what that is, because I do think that what we don't see, especially in solo and entrepreneurship, And I think a lot of industries is, what did day one look like?
Yeah.
Because so many of us are afraid to talk about or share what that was. We want to wait until we're a little bit more established.
Yeah.
And so if you're going to do something where you're like, I don't have any experience, cool. Like, own that. Talk about that. Be a student of that content. Be a learner of that content. Ask questions from that lens where you're not trying to be Ryan, who is the 7-8 figure multiple business owner, but you're like, I don't even know what equity means. I don't even know what acquisition means. Like,
and that's
I don't
great.
even know. I don't even, something that I had to learn the hard way, but thank God I did, was, the difference between self-employment and entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
The difference between being a freelancer who you're relying on other people and everybody else's checks versus, can that business run without you?
Yeah.
Because God forbid you get sick, you get hit by a bus. Oh, God forbid you want to take a vacation or have a baby and your business can't run without you.
Yeah.
You're screwed.
Yeah. I think that's the whole appeal of the wealthy way and everything we do is like, I'm just trying to set the example for like how I just want to live my life. It's not views based. It's not anything based. It's like, these are the things I believe and how I live my life. And it's like, you can do all those things. I go on vacation all the time. I have a third kid who's going to be here, by the time this releases, we have all these businesses. I don't work on the weekends. Like, you can do all these things. And so for me, it's like, that's just me and what I want to do. And, it's just documenting the journey of like, look, and in 10 years, to your point too, I'm doing what for me is sustainable, right? Mm-hmm. People are like, I see a bunch of my friends doing live streams and like all these calls and different things. I'm like, I can't do it. I'm just not going to do it. They're like, Ryan, we would get more people if you did like a nighttime live stream. That's when everyone's home. I go, that's great. I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to hang with my family, right?
I admire that so much about you.
It doesn't matter. Like, but here's the thing, to like what you just said is there's going to be people who are like, I mess with that. Like, that's what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. I respect that, and your vibe attracts your tribe, as they say. And like, there's a cap to however many people are down with this message. And I don't know what it is, but I'm going to just keep talking about it because I'm not pursuing anything else. It's just like, this is me. And as I evolve, maybe, I'll be at different stages of my life and whatever. But, there's other vibes where it's like, oh man, like, you see why Andrew Tate blew up. It's like, there's like a massive market for his message and what like people wanting that lifestyle and what he's talking about. And, it's like, cool. Like, that's a mass market. He's going to go do his thing.
You brought up a good point though, that I don't think gets mentioned enough, which is your idea of what success and happiness looks like is very different from what it looks like for me, what it looks like to anybody who's listening to this, where, people will compare themselves of, oh, well, Gary Vaynerchuk said to do this, or he's posting this many times a day, or I should do videos about this because he does that. Hold on a second. Like, Gary Vaynerchuk wants to buy a football team.
Yeah.
Is that how much money you want to make?
Well,
and you can post as many times as you want, but it comes back to just when you're thinking about the lifestyle that you want, it is, take a step back. What do you want in 5 years? What do you want in 10 years? I know, for example, that my life right now, where I'm, on every coast and like basically living out of a suitcase and spending way too much in like living in New York right now, that's not sustainable.
Yeah.
But I know that.
Yeah.
And I'm building for the next 5-10 years so that when I have kids, I only have to work on my own schedule for that.
And, we were talking about this before. You're like, hey, right now, I'm single, but I want to get married and have kids. So by the way, Giselle's single for anyone. Like 90% of the audience is dudes. So take what you will with it. But
serious inquiries only.
Serious inquiries only. You must be at least 6 foot, dark. No. So anyways, what I was conveying with this though is like the people who relate to you in, the certain ways that are important to them, like they're all in because you're unique in yourself. And it's like, I tell people this all the time, like I said, my version of success is very different. Like to me, I don't care how much money you make. Like, do you have the life you want? How's your relationship with your kids and your spouse and your faith and your health? Dude, if you're fat and out of shape and you got $1 billion, I am not envious of you.
Not
I'm
at
like,
all.
Bro, good luck. So no, I don't have like, I'm doing what I want to do. And also too, it's like, I tell people this all the time, I'm like, well, you said Gary Vee's advice, right? And, Gary Vee kind of started the grind culture.
Yeah.
And I just never been about that, right? And I respect Gary, and like,
of course.
I've met him, and great guy. But it's like, you got to look at, okay, what are my values, and who are the people who have those values, and how do I aspire to be like them? And it's like, well, okay, first off, my values are, hey, I want to be a strong Christian, a strong family man, and a strong business owner. Who else does that? Okay. And you start to look at the pool, and that's like still like a broad filter. And you're like, well, okay, he's divorced. They have no kids, and they have no desire to have kids. They have no faith. And you start to like look at it, and you're like, all right, well, should I really be taking life advice from them? I can take business advice from them, but do I want to take life advice from them? And my answer would be no, you should not. You should never take life advice from somebody who does not, have like the life that you want. Now, you can take elements and bits and pieces from everyone. There's no doubt about it, right? But like, I'm very cautious of who I listen to.
Do you know how rare it is, though, that you and I are following our own dreams? Like,
Very
think
rare.
about that for a moment. Like,
Yeah.
and I even challenge anyone listening to this, when you're thinking about what you want and what you're trying to build and who you're doing it for, like, is that for you?
Yeah.
Or was it something that was ingrained or pressure that was put upon you by a parent or a spouse or someone who did give you that chip on your shoulder, or you were envious of somebody, or you thought that something meant happiness? Like, it's very rare that someone has the ability to just be like, no, I'm good. I don't want to do that. Like, that's not normal.
Yeah.
It's not. And we have to step back sometimes. And especially when people are looking to us as examples, or in some cases mentors and coaches, to remind ourselves that, like, for you, that might have always been the case. Like, you talked about how you've been confident for it forever. For me, I had to do a lot of untangling and even acknowledgement of my dreams at all, because I got so caught up on a trajectory of just following the money.
Yeah.
Following the titles, following the achievements, following the validation, following the association, to then be like, wait, but why am I so unhappy?
Yeah.
Like, this is my dream job. This is what I've always wanted.
Yeah.
But why am I waking up miserable every single day, dreading it, counting down the days, counting down the minutes, wondering, when can I quit?
Yeah.
When can I leave? Oh, but I can't because it's security. Oh, but I can't because what are people going to think of me?
Yeah. Well, I think you always have to, you're always like, so obviously I faced many, many challenges. And I think the more success you have, way more challenges and drama you'll face. I mean, it just is inevitable. I always think about, like, I'll think about my problem of whatever I'm going through. I'm like, dang, this is like a really big problem. And then I'll be like, what is Elon Musk going through right now? And then I'll be like, dude, this dude has like 50 lawsuits. He's got Twitter losing like $1 billion a month.
X.
And I'm like, X, yep. And I'm just like, you know what? My problem's not so bad. And, so like, you reframe it that way. But yeah, it's just, I think so many people get caught up in their own head with everything that they do, and they magnify their problem if it's the end of the world, and it's just like,
It does feel like the end of the world
Yeah.
sometimes, though.
yeah.
Like, it really, truly does.
And-
the first time that you get your heart broken.
Yeah.
The first time that you get rejected. The first time that I saw my bank account in reds
Yeah.
and negatives. Or like one of the things I mentioned earlier, like, wait a minute, I'm confused. I thought I had it all figured out. Like, I thought that as long as I knew how to make more money, I would always make more of it. And then I ended up having a spending problem where
I see that Louis bag.
it's resale. My
Yeah.
habits have gotten better.
Yep.
And I had to fall on my face. I
Yeah.
had to be able to admit to myself, hey, you know what, Giselle? Maybe when you go out, you don't have to buy shots for everyone. Hey, when we go to that really nice place for dinner and everyone's having that awkward exchange of who pays for what, because you always have that person who's like, I just got a soda, and doesn't want to split it. Like, you don't have to pay for everyone.
Yeah.
Like, or hey, you know what? Like, you don't have to take that vacation. There have been moments where I look back and I wish that I would have taken vacations or had experiences when I didn't have that much money so that I could, be with my friends, and I could, but for the most part, it's it's just recognizing like where are those thoughts
Yeah.
coming from?
I think everybody's just going to have to get uncomfortable. You know, that's just part of adapting and evolving. And I know for me, I was always very introverted. And so anybody who knows me, especially from a young age, I was very quiet. I didn't like attention. You know, you'd be surprised looking at me now, but like, I was like, man, dude, I just kind of like want to blend in and not, you know, deal with the spotlight. Now, I always wanted to be great. It wasn't like I just was like going to be, I was like, no, I want to be the best, but I don't really like need the attention. And it's funny because in 2016, I started to have a lot of success flipping houses. And one of my mentors was like, hey, you should post about this on social media. I'm like, heck no, dude. Like, I'm not trying to come off like I'm bragging, making money and all this stuff. He's like, no, dude, it's going to help your business. You're going to get more leads and investors and everything, but you're also going to help a lot of people. Like, people are going to get inspired. You can teach them and it's going to be good for everyone. And I was like, dude, I do not want to do that. And I just became convicted and I started doing it and I saw the fruits of it, you know, on all sides. Business grew. People were like, you know, getting a lot of help and, you know, it was crazy. And then, you know, the same thing kind of happened in 2020 when I started making content. I'm like, dude, I am not going to make TikToks. This is so stupid. Just these kids dancing. And one of my friends convicted me to do it. His name's King Kong. And he was like, no, bro, you got to do it. You know, you got to do this stuff. And then I was like, YouTube? I don't want to do YouTube. This is stupid. Like, and then finally I just had to get over my own belief of like, it wasn't that I didn't think I could succeed. I always was confident, like, hey, if I'm going to do this, like, I will figure it out and succeed. Because anything I've ever tried to do in my life, I found a way to succeed. I didn't know how it was going to happen or whatever, but I'm like, oh, I want to play baseball, I'll figure it out. I want to flip houses, I'll figure it out. I want to do content, I'll figure it out, whatever. So I've always been relentless in that way, but it was always very difficult to make the decision to do it because people had told me, it's not like YouTube was this new thing. People had told me that for years. They're like, dude, you should post YouTube videos. I'm like, no, that's stupid. And finally in 2020, I didn't have a choice. I'm locked up in my house and I'm like, I guess I'll make videos finally. And then the moment I started doing it and realizing what it was doing, I was like, I was so stupid. Like, I cannot believe I just waited years and years to do this because I was so like either uncomfortable or too comfortable. I was too comfortable. I was doing good in business. I'm like, I don't need YouTube. I'm crushing it. And they're like, you should do it. I'm like, no, I don't need it. So I was too comfortable, which a lot of people are. They say, oh, I want this, I want that, I want this. And at the end of the day, though, it's like they're comfortable. Even though they don't have all the things they want, they're good. They're not forced to do anything.
Right.
So I think comfortable was a problem. And then I think also just like being closed off to opportunity. And I'm just like, dude, I'm focused. I'm doing my thing. I don't need all this other stuff. It's a waste of time. And I didn't even look into it. I just assumed it was a waste because I didn't like YouTube. I'm like, I don't watch YouTube. Who watches YouTube? I didn't think people watched YouTube. I just thought people went to YouTube to learn how to tie ties, and I didn't realize it was like a TV channel.
Yeah. What about when it came to talking about like your marriage or your family or your faith? Was there ever any hesitation or pushback for being more personal? Because a lot of times people are like, oh, I just want to talk about business.
Yeah.
I just want to talk about business.
I'm trying to think when I did that. It was definitely in 2020 in the first year. I think for me, I was already somewhat always sharing my family and my faith on social media, but like not as a content creator. It was just like, you know, I was just sharing it on Instagram or Facebook with like no followers. But I think in 2020, when I started to create content, I go, hey, I need to be known for real estate investing because that's like my bread and butter. But I also understood that I wasn't only going to make content on real estate. Like I was like, that's number one, super boring. I'm not going to talk about real estate all day. And number two, I also just knew, I was like, look, people need to hear this other stuff because it's important. And that to me was why I did it. I was like, they need to hear about faith. Like if they don't, it's a massive problem. And once I started posting about it, I started to read comments and I noticed, I was like, man, people really like this. And, you know, I started doing videos with my wife and people really liked it. And I was like, just looking at it as a thing that I felt the world needed, but also as like a business, I don't want to say business opportunity, but like a blue ocean, in that I was like, nobody's doing this. You know, why? Is there not a market for it, or is everyone too scared? And I was like, I'm just going to do it. I don't care. Whatever. Because also, too, I was at the point in my life where, to your point, I wasn't dependent on YouTube. I didn't need to be a slave to the algorithm or views or brand deals. It's like, I don't care.
Right.
If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. So I just, you know, I just knew that was the type of content I wanted to create, and I felt it was needed. And, you know, I just kind of was like, let's see what happens. And, you know, now it's like, it's just part of who I am. And today, if like I had to make just real estate videos, I would have burned out a long time ago.
Yeah.
We'd have been done. I love real estate, but man, I'm not going to make videos about it all day.
It goes just to the burning out in the niche. Like, you're not a house. Like, your brand is not a house, whether it's real estate or something else.
Yeah.
Like, that's not, you are a human who works in that space.
Yeah.
It's not that you work in the space and you just happen to be a person, and it can get so easy to get lost or to hide behind. Like, that's really what it is. You can, especially salespeople, you can be so good at selling a product or an industry or real estate or whatever it is, but it is when you have to flip it and sell yourself, but also flip it so that you're not selling, you're letting people experience who you are as a person, as a full human being, offline, not just on, someone with hobbies and interests, hopefully, someone with friends and family.
Maybe you just are the most boring person ever.
I sometimes,
no, not you, but like
sometimes I do look at my feed though, and I'm like, girl, you need to take a vacation. You need to spend time with friends.
Yeah,
like,
let's buy a new car or something. Let's spice it up. But no, I was so at Pineda Media, like the first questions we literally asked them were like, hey, how many kids you got? What's your family situation? What do you like to do? You know, what are some achievements in your life beyond business? Like, tell us all those things. And the reason we ask is for the point you're making of like, people want to know like who you are as a human. Not like, we get it. You're in real estate. You're in marketing. What else you got? There's a million other people in real estate marketing. And so to me, it's the commonality of the other things that draw people to you, because it's like, look, if I want to learn marketing, there's a lot of people I can learn it from, right? So
many.
What's going to attract me to Giselle? It's like, well, you know, if I'm a lady, I'm like, oh, dude, I vibe with that. I don't, you know, that's a commonality. Oh, you know, she's got this, she's got that. Cool. I rock with that. And so it's like, whenever we go to our events, people tell me why they came to the event. And I always hear it's usually never real estate. They didn't come for that. They're like, dude, I love how you show your faith. I love how you treat your family. I love how you like golf. I like golf. We should golf. And I'll be like, all right. And so
I didn't come for real estate. I just came for fun. Just came to make
you
friends.
would be surprised.
I believe you.
There's a lot of people.
I'm not even mocking you. Like, I fully, people want to feel like they're a part of something.
Yeah.
They want to be a part of that community.
Yeah.
They want to surround themselves with the types of people who you surround yourself with and who you attract.
Yeah.
Because you make your content for a community.
Yeah.
You don't just make it to be a self-serving, like, yes, of course.
Yeah.
You make a lot of money from all of the different things, but it's feeling like you're a part of something. And those who think that social media is this fake, toxic, disingenuous place, it can be that.
You know who's the worst at this? It's the clients that you have to consult. You said you have like consulting for real estate pros.
Yeah.
Every time I see realtors are like the butt of all my jokes, because I used to be a realtor and I was terrible. So maybe I'm just jealous. But I was a realtor for 8 years. But every realtor, whenever I see their social media feed of like, just listed, just sold, freaking this house tour, I'm like, where's your face? Do you exist? Are you a human? Or is your profile just a bunch of houses? Like,
it's
are you Zillow?
Template. Yeah.
Am I on Zillow or am I on a real person's feed? And like, oh, well, it's what my broker told. Like, that's the way to, I'm like, how many followers does your broker have? You know, like, and then you just start to go down this rabbit hole. I'm like, so do you have a face? You know, like, do you have a kid? Like, well, I think I should. And then you'd probably get this. Should I make a business page and a personal page?
Oh, God.
And I'm like,
no.
Well, okay. One, you can't even manage one. So
Correct.
Okay. Two, you are the person and the business. Just be you. You're a person who sells real estate. What else you got going on?
Right. Something that you brought up reminded me too. Like when we found each other on TikTok, we were both pretty new to TikTok.
Yeah.
And sure, there were people who had millions of followers at that point, but the reason why we chose to follow each other was just, I feel like this person gets it.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's someone who I would actually want to hang out with. And we get really caught up into that. And I think in real estate too, it's, oh, what's going to get the most views? Or, oh, well, I think that in any industry, and when you're creating your personal brand or your online identity, you can get really caught up into thinking, oh, well, I thought that real estate agents are supposed to fill in the blank.
Right.
Well, I thought podcasters are supposed to fill in the blank. Well, I thought that Christians are supposed to, girls are supposed to, influencers are supposed to.
Yeah.
Rather than thinking about who are you as a person? What do you want to be known for?
Yeah.
What do you enjoy? What makes you so excited? And yes, what does your face look like?
Yeah.
What does your voice sound like?
Yeah.
And where you and
Are you funny? Are you serious?
Are you funny?
Are you loud, soft? Like, what are you?
Do you use colorful language?
Yeah, exactly.
What and with you and I, sure, we had that moment where we've had well, what's a TikToker supposed to do?
Yeah, yeah.
And both of us had stints where we did the pointing to the text and we did the dancing. But then we found our own voices, quite literally.
Yep.
And, can you still create trust without speaking and creating videos? Sure, but it's going to take a lot longer.
Yeah.
And you might not get as many views on some of those videos where you're talking versus doing a really sick ass mansion house tour.
Yep.
But when there's a video of you talking on your feed, it doesn't matter how many followers you have. If I'm creeping on you, if I'm researching you, if I'm looking at your competitors, but I see a video of you talking and I can see, all right, what does this person look like? What does this person sound like? Are they competent? Do they seem nice? Are they reading a teleprompter? Does it feel like they would give me their honest opinion about something?
Yeah.
I might not follow you.
Yeah.
I might be trying so hard to creep on your feed and I don't want to double tap anything because I want to leave no paper trail behind. Like we've all been there, like creeping on whoever. Like I don't want them to know that I'm here.
Yeah.
But that still shows me, who are you and what would it be like if we were to do business, be friends, run into each other offline? Can I see that? Can I experience that?
Yeah.
Because if I can't, then that's money being left on the table. Is your business fine without that? Sure. A lot of those people who have the just listed, just sold are the ones who, are bringing in a lot of money.
Obviously, you got stuff just listed and just sold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously, and you've created an awesome network organically. Social media is just one more place to play.
Yeah.
Where how cool though that you can run into people, meet people, make friends with people who otherwise you never would have met in real life from across the country. You and me, this is our first time meeting in person.
Yep.
Where that's really awesome. Where previously you had to pay money for ads for that.
Yeah.
Or you had to, get on a flight, or you needed to have a reality show.
Yeah.
Now you pull out your phone and the playing field is even for everyone. And you can start from zero and you don't need 1 million followers or even 100,000.
No, I just one of our students, his name's Levi. We just did a podcast together.
I know Levi.
Okay, you know Levi. So
Levi.
he's here, and he made $1 million his first year as a realtor with 7,000 YouTube subs. You don't need a lot of followers to make a lot of money.
You don't.
And I try to stress that to people, but also too, it's like you're going to continually find yourself in business, content, everything else. You're always changing, right? And so I remember for me, my realization in content was I started out, just like, hey, I'm going to own the real estate niche. You do have to own a niche when you first start. People got to know you for something. And after I felt like I did that, I was like, okay, that's cool. Now what? Because, the real estate niche itself is small by itself. And also, too, it's not all I do. Like, I have lots of things I like to do. And I watched the evolution of others in my space who've been doing it way longer. And I saw that, yes, they started a niche and then they scaled. It's like Gary Vee was a wine guy. Then he became this social media marketing guy. Then he became this NFT guy. And now he's Gary Vee. And he's like, everybody can know who he is. And he just does a million things, right? And they all did that. Grant Cardone, his business partner, Brandon Dawson, was just in here. And it's like, man, he started out as a sales guy, a car sales guy. Then he went to general sales. Then he went to entrepreneur guy. Then he went to real estate guy. Now he's gone to, just this global guy who's doing all these things. Patrick Bet-David, another one, like he started out in insurance, then entrepreneurship. Now he's very political. He's doing all this. He's interviewing presidential candidates now. It's crazy. And so like they all start to broaden out to whatever their passion is. And so I started to think about this and I was like, man, okay.
Isn't it wild that as a human you can evolve?
Yeah.
Crazy concept that so many people get stuck in, thinking that you can only be one thing.
Yeah, they think they got to already have like the next 30 years planned out. It's crazy. But I was like, okay, what am I doing next, right? And so like my channel's evolved into podcasting, into, all these things. But to me, I had the big realization after making a lot of content, getting a lot of comments, a lot of feedback, to understand what people were resonating with and what I was actually truly passionate about talking about and the style of content I was doing. I don't make the 10 to 15 minute scripted videos anymore. I just don't. I'm not passionate about it. I don't care. All I do are podcasts now. And I love it because it's great. I meet cool people. It leads to business deals. YouTube actually wants long form videos. We can repurpose it into clips. I literally can film like 2 podcasts a week, and that's all I have to film for the week. And I'm good. And I have no script. It takes no effort. I just talk stuff I would normally do. It's like I have a conversation for a potential like business partner or relationship, and it's just filmed.
Yeah.
And so it's super easy on my end, and it accomplishes a lot business-wise and relationship-wise. But when it comes to establishing your brand, you also have to just understand what makes you unique and how do you really just go all in on that? Because a lot of people try to be copycat clones of whoever else. And it's like, well, that's not you, that's them. And also, why would I want the bootleg version of them? Like, I'll just watch them, right? So it's like, okay, for anyone who's like, okay, I want to be like Ryan, it's like, okay, one, don't dye your hair because people will just say you're the bootleg version. Like, don't.
Unless you like dyeing your hair and you've been doing it since before 2020.
Exactly, right? But if you're just going to try it, whatever, right? Like, it's obvious to tell, whatever, right? But one thing I realized was, I was like, look, I'm not at any of these entrepreneurs levels yet who have been doing it way longer than me. They've exited hundreds of millions of dollars of companies. And, God willing, one day I will too. It's just a time thing. I mean, I'm 20 years younger than most of them. It is what it is. But I started to think about it. I was like, what does make me unique? Well, you start thinking about your hobbies and your message, what you believe. And I was like, man, the business thing is like, that's the general thing, the investing thing. Okay. That's the ballpark we all play in as entrepreneurs. But why would somebody follow Gary Vee? Why does somebody follow Patrick? Why does somebody follow Grant? Like what is it beyond the business thing that makes them follow? And they all have their unique things that people resonate with. And I was like, man, for me, the thing I'm most passionate about is faith and family. And I just started to think about it, and I was like, who else are the big Christian entrepreneurs out there making content? Because there's a lot of big Christian entrepreneurs like in the world, many, but they don't make content. They're just very low key. They're humble. They're just behind the scenes doing their thing, like doing amazing, giving billions of dollars. Like, it's amazing. But I go, who are these young entrepreneurs looking up to? Because they don't know these people. They're never going to talk to them or get to hear their wisdom. So who are they looking at? And I just started to look around the industry, and I was like, I don't know who they're looking at. And I was like, maybe they're just looking at me. And then it just clicked. And I was like, wow, if I don't know who to look at, they don't know. And I was like, this is it. That's what I'm going to go all in on, because like, it is me. It's what I'm passionate about. And I was given a unique skill set to do it. And also too, a, desire to do it. And also like, it's like, I'm trying to cross over now into a different world where, I don't know, now we're getting really deep, but
let's go deep.
I came from the secular world, and I'm now crossing over into the Christian world. And, we'll see where it goes. You have all these like Christian world people, like a Dave Ramsey, who started out in that space, a John Maxwell, there are others. And then they cross over to like the mainstream. Once again, I don't know anybody that did the opposite. And so it's a very, I don't really care how it plays out either way, because I'm I'm just doing what I feel is right. And also too, I'm good either way. So it's not gonna, it doesn't matter if I get canceled. Like, it just doesn't matter. I don't care. So it's just like, I don't know. We'll see how it plays out, but it goes back to the point of identifying what you're passionate about, what makes you unique, and then just going all in on that. And there might be a big audience for it. There might not be. And there's a lot of Christians. So like, I think the audience is pretty big. So I think like it's going to be very good. That's what I think. But even if maybe my passion was, I like to freaking paint bottles and that's my passion. It's like, all right, I don't know how many people are into painting bottles, but like there's a market for it.
I mean, what I believe makes you unique is you were born. Like, that alone is a miracle, and the experiences that you have had. Because I've watched your videos. Like, yeah, I've seen the Rolex content and the Porsche content and, you know, all of the different people that you've had that are business leaders here and by association, and it creates credibility. But when I really think about what were the posts that connected me to you the most, it was when you talked about the birth of your son. It was when you talk about the relationship that you have with your wife. It was when you talked about how you don't overwork and you have times when you leave. It was when you talked about how you lead with service with your employees and how you compensate them, because those were all areas where I aligned in some way, shape, or form, or I identified in some way, shape, or form, whether it was the work that I've done, how I treat my employees, the different organizations that I work with or charities that I work with, the faith that I have. But it's that unique and also you have your, you know, your sports, your base, all of those different things that's what makes someone unique, is your experiences. Sometimes we hear unique and we think that it has to be extraordinary.
You have to have all these accomplishments.
All of our hits, all of our wins. And so for me, for example, like one of the stories that is most requested when I get hired to speak is about this time that I got dumped at the Olive Garden. Like,
I got to hear that story. That's funny. So, my wife and I's first date was at the Olive Garden.
Was it the one in Victorville?
No, in Vegas.
Do you know the one I'm talking about though?
I know Victorville. Yeah.
So I'll share that one, and because it really is, it is even a full circle moment being in Vegas now.
Why were you in
Victorville?
Victorville?
So I was living in LA.
Okay.
I was dating someone who lived in Las Vegas. So we would make that drive a lot.
You guys just met in the middle.
And no, we would make it together sometimes.
Oh,
and
okay.
Meet in the middle.
Oh, got it.
And so we had just had a wild weekend in Las Vegas, and we decided to go, you know, load up on some carbs after being at the beach club and go to the Olive Garden because, hello, unlimited breadsticks. And when you're here, you're family, right?
I love the Olive Garden. People are haters.
And he was much older than I was. I was so excited to be there. Like, I had my Louis Vuitton purse, but like I got a soft spot in my heart for the Olive Garden.
Yeah.
And so we get there and I am just thrilled. And the server comes over and asks if we're ready to order. And truly, it was a really big decision that I could not decide between the chicken fettuccine Alfredo or the full tour of Italy, which if you're not familiar, it's the chicken parm, the lasagna, and the fettuccine, and of course, unlimited salad breadsticks. And I was like, I need a little more time. No problem. She drops off the breadsticks at the table. I look up and my boyfriend at the time is bright red, fuming. He stands up, slams his hands on the table, throws the breadsticks across the restaurant and said, I'm done with you. And right, like you laugh now and I'm smiling telling the story because it's like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like what? Yeah. This grown ass man throws breadsticks across the table and is pissed off that his girlfriend needs like 30 more seconds to figure out what she wants to order. And so he left and went back to the car. And and the thing that I hate to admit is I didn't laugh. I didn't call an Uber because Uber didn't exist. I didn't call a cab. I didn't give him the finger. I didn't leave. Instead, I was so embarrassed. I went ahead and ordered, I think, both the tour of Italy and the fettuccine and whatever he wanted. And I paid for the check. And I was like, oh, he wasn't feeling well. He just went to the car. And I cried to the car and I got to the car. He was still fuming. Like, luckily he waited. But I ended up apologizing to him for what I had done wrong and for my existence. And no one understands like what do you mean, Giselle? Like you're this confidence coach. Like you were this person who like you would never put up with that behavior. Now I wouldn't.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, I was in a relationship for a very long time that initially he started out as my best friend in the whole wide world. And if you've ever heard the story about the frogs and boiling water, do you know that one?
No.
So if you put a frog in boiling water, it'll jump out immediately.
Okay.
But if you put a frog in room temperature water and slowly raise the temperature up degree by degree by degree, it will boil to death.
Yeah.
And that's how we find ourselves in a lot of situations of discomfort or where we're questioning our self-worth, whether it might be a relationship, it might be a job.
Yeah.
But I entered that relationship knowing exactly who I was and having very high standards. And all of a sudden I was in this relationship with someone who was dictating what I was wearing, what I was eating, if I was worthy of affection. And I allowed for him to speak to me in that way. But in that moment, I knew something's wrong. Like it took me a very long time. And I wish in that moment that I could tell you that as soon as we got back to LA that I broke up with him. But it took me months and months of getting back together and breaking up and getting back together and breaking up and continuing to be told that I would amount to nothing, and especially without him.
Yeah.
But when I finally knew I was done, I was done.
Yeah.
And what's wild is that it took me months and months and really the years of that relationship to finally have the courage to say something that only took me less than 10 seconds, which was, I'm done with you. Never speak to me again. And it's amazing how in that moment, it only took 10 seconds to completely change my life.
It took years to
build
it up
to get to that moment. And so when people hear that story, you know, maybe they could identify with me. Maybe they've been a horrible spouse or partner, or they had that immature insecurity. Maybe the way that they speak to themselves is that person. Like you bully yourself in that way. But that moment, I promised myself I would never let myself be treated in that way. And I would never let myself to get to that low point in a relationship and in confidence. And so I feel like, you know, one of the chips I had on my shoulder was to prove this person wrong and to prove that I could do everything by myself, that I didn't need him or his relationships or his connections or his validation to find happiness, to be worthy of love, to be worthy of success. And so, yeah, now every time I come to Las Vegas, which now I fly first class, I don't even drive, you know, or
take that, whatever your name is.
He who shall never be named. But, and now.
How's he doing now? I know you've never stalked it.
Watch. So I blocked him on everything.
Okay.
But TikTok didn't exist back then.
Right.
So in 2020, I got a DM slide.
Okay.
From him.
Yep.
And I think I might have actually been giving relationship advice that might have potentially had to do with that relationship. And he sent me a DM and he said, I always knew you would be successful.
How'd that make you feel?
It confirmed everything, but I think there was a part of me that hoped that maybe he had learned from that or had, you know, grown up a little bit and he was exactly the same person.
Yeah.
I have no idea what he's doing, where he's living. I've since blocked him on TikTok. I don't know his phone number anymore. And, you know, at that point, I was so indifferent to the situation. I had healed. I had grown. I have done so much work.
Yeah.
You know, even work that on things I didn't even know needed the work.
Yeah.
That when he said that, I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel sad. I might have giggled a little bit.
Yeah, you're like, dang, this is a blast from the past.
And I didn't even think about it until I was getting paid tens of thousands of dollars to tell that story on a stage in Las Vegas. And I had a moment of looking around at the audience. And actually in that audience that day, there was someone who came up to me and she said, hey, I just want to let you know that I heard you share that story in, I don't remember if it was a caption or a TikTok, and she goes, you're the reason why I'm here today. You're the reason why I left my relationship, started my own business, entered that particular industry. And like, you know, we get so caught up in, I want the video to go viral. I want to get millions of views.
Yeah.
If you get the right people to see it, you can save lives, change lives, attract more of the right community. But, you know, for me, the unique differentiator is I'm not afraid to talk about some of the lowest points of my life.
And I think that's what all great, you know, creators and community builders do, is they talk about the hard parts. And, you know, now it's like anybody who's dealt with a breakup and, an abusive, well, I don't know if that's the right word, but
emotionally,
whatever, emotionally abusive relationship. Like, dude, I vibe with that, and like you had mentioned like the story I tell about my son. It's like, I tell this story about my son being premature for 2 months and it was extremely difficult going to the NICU every day. Setback after setback. He had to have brain surgery. It was crazy. And I've had so many parents reach out like, hey, I had a NICU baby. I had this. I deal with this. And so, it ties us together in a very different level. So I think sharing your vulnerabilities is actually like the number one thing I would suggest people do. Don't put up like this, oh man, this is the highlight reel of all the great things I do. Like people are like, whoa, I did not know you did that. That's crazy. I think that's the first time I heard that story. I didn't have to pay, $20,000 to hear it.
It's up on, I share it all the time. We create so much free content for the world to see, or maybe that one person saw it and they go, can you tell that story?
I think
share that story?
Well, now we can laugh about it. So it's good.
It's a great hook.
It's good. But the funny part to me, as you were telling the story that I was wondering, I was like, so she stayed at Olive Garden after you chucked these breadsticks and she just ate the tour of Italy.
I didn't eat it. I ordered it to go.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I thought you just, in my mind, I'm picturing you like these breadsticks everywhere. You're eating the tour of Italy by yourself, just like.
He wouldn't have waited that long in the car. Maybe he would have. I don't know, but.
That's how I want to think about it. That's how I'm going to remember that story.
It's been, if you feel a call on your heart to share a story.
Yeah.
Or if you've ever wondered, am I the only one who, or if you feel like there's somebody who needs to hear this. And I don't know who it is. Mm-hmm. And maybe they may never let you know who they are.
Yeah.
But I just remember that there have been moments in my life, whether it was the time I got dumped in an Olive Garden, or the time that I had a panic attack while driving, or I'm not like Taylor Swift where I share every single breakup, but I do believe that, for me, breakups have been some of the most incredible God moments and the most incredible rebuilding moments where I'm reminded of who I am. And I realize that I'm more than what I thought that I was. Yeah. But, or if it is, a time when maybe someone stole money from me, or I was stupid about money, or I made a mistake. Sometimes I have this pull where like, I almost feel like if I don't tell the story, I'm going to explode.
Yeah.
Well, and those have been some of the most profound, beautiful moments where that's what reminds your audience that they're not just an audience. They are a community.
Yeah.
It is a conversation. It's not just a presentation. It's not just a production. It is that you genuinely want to create an impact on the world.
Yep.
And you don't want someone to suffer like you did, or you don't want someone to feel as maybe alone as you did in a certain situation. And it's not always a low. Sometimes it's highs too.
Yeah.
Like weird thing for me when I bought my first condo, I remember I was so excited. And then at the same time, it was full of like a lot of feelings. Yeah. Like I was so proud. And also I was like, but wait, I thought I was supposed to do this with somebody else. I thought I was going to do this with a baby. Like I'm doing this. Like I thought, why do I feel, did anybody else feel weird? Did anybody else feel as broke as you did when you first bought a house? Because you were saving all this money and then all of a sudden your bank account is empty.
Well, I always tell the real estate investors who, they're like, I'm going to get in the real estate game. I go, great, cool. So here's the thing. Like on paper, you're going to build a lot of wealth, but you're always going to be broke. And they're like, what? I'm like, well, yeah. I mean, every real estate investor's always got capital and all these deals. And so they're always like cash poor. That's just how they operate. And, yeah, it's funny, but I think you mentioned Taylor Swift. She makes a song about every breakup, jokingly. But
I build a business.
but like, why is Taylor Swift so big, and why do people resonate with her?
Yeah, she's
telling these stories. She's being vulnerable, and I'm sure she's got a little like stingers in for those exes too. But it works. It works for everybody. So no, I think it's great. I think what you're doing is amazing. Just kind of like sharing this message of vulnerability, of sharing this message of, hey, like define what winning looks like for you. Don't worry about everyone else. Right. And then just sharing this message of like, just it's going to be weird. It's going to, people are going to judge, but don't worry about all that. Just do it because it's worth it. And there are people that need to hear your message.
Mm-hmm. So, and all of it, like you have everything you need.
Yeah.
To be who you were made to be. Everything that you need. Like when I look back and I think about, you know, how I got from the Olive Garden to sitting here with you. It's having the voice and the willingness to ask. It's believing that you're worthy of all of the things that you are dreaming of. It's finding people to surround yourself who are going to support you, or learning how to tune out the ones who aren't. But I do believe in the power of even visualization and manifestation, where like I would challenge anyone listening to this who maybe you started listening to this because you're like, I want to make more content. But like even just sitting down and thinking about like, but why do you want to make the content?
Yeah.
Where do you want your life to be in 5 years? Or if you hate making the content, like taking the time to really visualize, like what's it going to look like for you?
Yeah.
What's it going to feel like for you? So much so that your whole body believes it with every fiber of your being, because that's what I really think manifestation is it's not just like rubbing a lamp and a genie's going to grant you a wish. It's training your muscle memory before it actually happens so that you can step into it when the opportunities present themselves. And not being afraid to ask for what you want, because the worst that can happen, somebody says no.
Yep.
And then you go ask someone else, or you create an opportunity for yourself. But, you know, you have everything that you need. And how cool if you're a part of the community that Ryan has built.
Come to WealthCon if you want to see
alone.
what the community's all about. No, it's been great. I've enjoyed the conversation. It's great to meet you in person. Where will people find you?
I'm most active on Instagram. That's
Okay.
where the DMs are open, and I do check them. So if you want to connect,
Single guys, you know.
Single guys, serious inquiries only. But I was like,
serious inquiries only.
Serious inquiries,
Long-term
only.
inquiries. And if you're a real estate professional, she can help you out too. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of those. But it's been great, guys. Make sure you go follow her, and we'll catch you on the next episode. We're out.
Whatever it is you want to do this day and age, you can hyper learn that subject in 60 days. The information is out there. You put everything you can over 60 days, you're going to have a very good understanding of whatever it is you're trying to do.
In his first year being a realtor, he made over $1 million with just doing